The Plank, presented by Jeep, continues right now on ABC Action News Now.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to The Plank here, presented by Jeep. Tom Korun along with John Sabol as we continue on and talk about this Buccaneers game against the Rams. And coming up a little bit later in the program, we're going to talk about the Ray Rice situation, and there is some breaking news on that you want to stick around and listen to. But we also have a contest that we'd like you to join if you don't mind. And are you in this thing?
You know what? I did not participate this week. I forgot to put my picks in with kickoff coming up, but I will be doing it next week. That's for sure.
Well, tell them about it.
All right, well, it's called the Pigskin Picks. All you need to do is log on to abcactionnews.com/theplank and pick your NFL teams, who's going to win each week. And you have 5 minutes up until kickoff of each game, which is either Thursday or Sunday or even Monday night. And you're eligible to win a trip to Hawaii if you win throughout the entire season. And make your picks and see how you do against Tom and I once we put our picks in. And so far, the leaderboard so far coming in from week one, we have Tony Thomas and Palm Harbor with 10 correct picks. And then here at the station, our own Dennis Phillips right now is beating everybody with 11.
No, he doesn't. He can't go to Hawaii, though, right?
No, we're not going to let him go to Hawaii.
I'm not allowing him.
No, he's not going to Hawaii.
If he's going, I'm going.
Right. I think he's just doing this for bragging rights.
All right. Once again, folks, the line 813-367-0171 if you'd like to join us and bring your option. And right now, why don't we go to a caller before we go to Austin Kim out of Missouri? Is it Gerard, I believe, who's on the line? Gerard, welcome to The Plank.
Yeah, I'm here. How you doing, guys? Hey, listen, first off, I want to say love the show. You know, it's great hearing you guys on the net. So appreciate it.
All righty.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, my thing is, with the offensive line having bigger holes than a block of Swiss cheese, okay, is Josh McCown really the right quarterback? I mean, at least Mike Glennon being, younger, a little more mobile, and, if it means running for your life, well, he can do it. Josh kind of sat back there like a deer in headlights last week. I just don't know. I know Lovie Smith's faithful, and he'll stick with the guy, but I don't know. Do you really think, that's the smartest thing in the world?
Well, he bring up, you know what, I'm not going to give up on McCown yet.
It's way early.
Is it the smartest thing in the world? I really don't have an opinion on that, but I will say this much. First of all, I think that what Lovie wants to do, and he might have to change his thinking on this, is he wants to predicate his offense on establishing the run first. I don't think it's ever going to work. I don't think that offensive line is ready to establish the run. They certainly are going to have a tough time against the Rams. So they have got to do what they did in the fourth quarter against Carolina, and that is to get a guy like Doug Martin or get a guy like Rainey out there in the flat, let him go one-on-one, pick the 3-4 yards up instead of 1.5 or 2 yards a chunk on the run. I mean, they're just not going to get anywhere. I didn't see it last week. I don't see it happening this week. I know Lovie, if he was watching, he'd like to just, he'd like to say, "What are you, crazy?"
Well,
no, you got it. You got to go with what's going to work for you.
You got to go with your bread and butter, and he wants his bread and butter to be the running game, but it hasn't happened because of the offensive line. But you know what? Look at it this way. When Josh McCown started to settle down in the second half, the ball started to move. They started to get a little bit of chemistry, but that was through the air. Look at the touchdown pass to Chris Owusu. So, like we said just moments ago, the most popular player on an NFL team when a quarterback is in trouble is the backup quarterback. And that is Mike Glennon right now. But it's only week one. We'll see what happens. If this was week 7, week 10, we may have some problems. But it's only week one. The reason why McCown also had problems, too, because Mankins went out with that offensive line.
One final thing. When I was talking with Josh McCown after the game, I asked him, I said, is it possible that you're going to invert this offense knowing that the passing game worked better against Carolina and most likely will work better against the Rams? And his quote to me, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was something very similar to this. He said, "I'm sure it's on tape, and I'm sure the coaches are going to take notice of it." So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, not only that, but Josh McCown even admitted after the game to everybody that he tried to do too much. He put too much pressure on himself to perform without the high expectations on the team, on himself. So, I think you don't like to see that coming from an older veteran like that, but at the same time, this is also a guy who hasn't started many games in his career.
Right. All right, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, let's move on now and bring in Austin Kim from ABC 17 in Columbia, Missouri, joining us to talk about the Rams. Austin, how the heck are you?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's a pleasure having you on, and let's talk about, we could sit here and we could commiserate about what happened in week one because, let's face it, the Bucs sucked and you guys sucked. I mean, let's put it right out there, all right? What did Jeff Fisher take out of that week one and that loss to the Vikings that he could bring into week two, be proud of?
Well, I mean, there were a couple bright spots, but I mean, he even said after the game that this was just a flat-out embarrassment. Anytime they had something good happen to them, they had a drive-killing penalty. I think they had about 13 penalties for 100-something yards. That was just absolutely ugly to watch. It was one of the worst performances in the National Football League in Week 1, right along there with Tampa Bay. There were a couple of nice things to be said about the Rams. Brian Quick was very nice at a 99 yards through the air receiving. But he even had a drive-killing penalty after he got a big chunk of yardage. He just grabbed the face mask. He was going out of bounds, and all of a sudden he just grabs the face mask of a cornerback. Those are just dumb penalties. You really can't have those against any NFL team, really. And that just kind of goes back to just refocusing and refreshing. I mean, Week 1 was obviously a lost cause. Then you have the bad news about Chris Long. Sam Bradford was already out. So I think this is at the point right now for the Rams where you're like, okay, we know this probably can't get much worse, so we might as well just start looking up. And with Tampa Bay as your next opponent, that's an easy target for the Rams. And there's really only one way to go, and that's up for the St. Louis team.
Can you talk about the dynamics of losing Long on that defensive line and what it does? You got Quinn on the other side. You really have 5 other decent players. You had a great front 7, but Long was your leader there. What dynamic does that cause for that defensive line?
Oh, well, no question. Long was that leader of not just that line, but perhaps that defense. The other person you might throw in there is James Laurinaitis in the middle for the linebacking core. But what that does is it forces a guy like William Hayes, who doesn't have a whole lot of playing experience, to step up. He was great on third down situations or whenever Chris Long needed a break. Well, now he's the man right now, and he has to go in that left side of that defensive line with Kendall Langford and William Hayes. That could be a really nice area for the Bucs to exploit because that's a position that doesn't have a lot of skill. It doesn't have a position with a lot of experience. So if you're able to get around those guys, unless Aaron Donald, the backup, the first-round pick in this year's draft of the Rams, is able to step up and really make a difference, that could be a side that the Bucs could explore as a possible way to get to that second and third level. Robert Quinn, he's going to be dynamic, but you need someone else to distract him. I don't think there really is another one of those guys on the Rams defensive line that can do that, even though there's a lot of depth. There just isn't a lot of elite depth for the Rams right now with the loss of Chris Long.
Well, Austin, no question, Chris Long and the combination of Long and Quinn created a massive pass rush for the Rams defense. But is William Hayes even had that experience? I know he's had, 12 sacks in the last 2 years combined. Maybe not had that starting experience, and he primarily used his third down in situations in the past. But how much is that going to really affect that pass rush that the Rams have been known to be some of the best in the NFL?
I think it's going to affect them tremendously. I think you'd rather have him. He even said it himself. He'd rather be Chris Long's backup just because Chris Long is there.
Right.
But that also means that he's able to kind of step back, take a look at things, see what's going well, see what they may need to correct. But everything just slows down for him when he's on the sidelines, where everyone's able to kind of rotate in. Well, everyone's going to have to play a lot more because you have one of your elite guys off. I know Ethan Westbrooks is, that was one of the last guys that survived the cuts for the St. Louis Rams, where they were kind of deciding between him and Michael Sam. You don't know what you're really going to get out of him. So it's going to be up to Hayes. And I don't know if they're going to maybe try rushing a guy like Alec Ogletree a little bit more. But, there's an opportunity there for the Bucs to really gash this team in the run game, especially if they're able to spread the ball out a little bit, use a couple more screens, get some of their athletes in open space. That could wreak havoc on this Rams defense that's coming in here limping, and also has a couple of inexperienced guys on the line as well as in the secondary. Don't forget about that either. Even if they are going to get a decent rush, if Josh McCown can get the ball out of his hand quick enough and go up against the likes of Tremaine Johnson and E.J. Gaines and Janoris Jenkins, that could be something that could really help out this Bucs offense.
I know the mantra around here is to get some pressure on the quarterback of the Rams, and I'm going to assume that Austin Davis is likely a quarterback that's going to be stepping on that field right now because, of course, Bradford's gone and Sean Hill has got a quad strain. Austin Davis, tell us about Austin Davis.
Austin Davis is from Southern Miss. He got a lot of playing time, obviously, in college. He really hasn't had a whole lot of experience to begin with. In fact, he was on the Rams roster initially, I think, in 2012. They cut him, and then when Bradford went down with the injury against Carolina in the 2013 season, Davis was back on. Well, now they're kind of in the same position where they have, now they have Sean Hill as the guy right now ahead of Davis, but with Kellen Clemens in 2013. It's going to have to be Austin Davis. He showed some glimpses considering he was just kind of thrown into the fire, and St. Louis was just out of rhythm offensively. Did he do a whole lot to impress you? Probably not, but it certainly wasn't the worst that the Rams have seen considering how many awful seasons they've had and how many high first-round draft picks they've had in the last 5 years. So there might be something, but it's going to be up to the coaches. This is really going to test someone like Brian Schottenheimer, the offensive coordinator for St. Louis. Can you get your athletes like Tavon Austin, Chris Gibbons into space? Can you find creative ways to kind of take the pressure off a guy like Austin Davis? That's going to be a huge question mark. It's something that a lot of coaches have to figure out with their quarterbacks, like the Buccaneers have to do with Josh McCown. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do against this Bucs defense, who also is trying to find his confidence too.
Austin, real quick before we let you go, the Rams did not score a touchdown last week. 2 field goals. Probably the worst performance out of any teams in the NFL. And now you're putting an undrafted free agent quarterback in there in Austin Davis. Any shot the Rams shock the world and beat the Bucs just on the defensive side or the offensive side rather alone?
Well, I think if you're able to establish the run, you can. Remember, Zach Stacy was a rookie running back last year from Vanderbilt who almost got 1,000 yards. He was in that 970 range in terms of his yardage from last year. So Zach Stacy is one of those guys that can really make a difference. And, keep in mind, they still have a fairly decent offensive line, led by Jake Long over there and Roger Saffold on the left side to protect Austin Davis. If they're able to step up and Saffold's able to stay healthy, that could be a key for the Rams. However, that being said, they showed a lot of drive-killing mistakes in the last game. So if they're able to cut down the mistakes, we probably are just going to assume they're going to have some. But if you're able to keep that number down in the single digits, at least you're going to give your offense a fighting chance. Give Tavon Austin a chance to really show his stuff, be that dynamic guy that we really expect. And I think that Rams offense is going to be okay. They're going to have a fighting shot. Will they win? Well, I don't know. But I don't think it would be necessarily a shock if St. Louis came in here to beat them because they do have a lot of weapons offensively and on the defensive side. I mean, they still have one of the best linebacking cores in the National Football League with Laurinaitis, Ogletree, and Jolon Dunbar. It's a pretty solid group, if you ask me. It's going to come down to that secondary if they're going to step up because, when you think about Tremaine Johnson, T.J. McDonald, Ronnie McCord, who, by the way, did intercept the ball off Josh McCown last year when McCown was with the Bears. If they're able to kind of step up and play mistake-free football, the Rams do have a shot at beating Tampa Bay.
All right, Austin, I appreciate the time that you've given us, and best of luck to you and not to the Rams. How's that?
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good show, and
right.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Austin Kim joining us from ABC 17 in Columbia, Missouri, talking about the Rams. I want to get another call in here before we go to break. Let's go to Curtis in West Chase. Curtis, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Hello?
Hi, Curtis.
Hello, am I on?
You are.
Hey, so I'm a big fan, huge fan, first-time caller. Just wanted to ask you a real quick question. I know Rainey showed some things last week. Starting to get the feeling that maybe Martin is turning into a little Cadillac Williams 2.0. Just want to hear your thoughts on it. I'll hang up and hear your thoughts off the air. Appreciate it.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks for the call, Curtis. I think we kind of discussed a little bit of this when Greg was on the line with us from the Tampa Bay Times. I like Greg Rainey. Rainey. I am not a Doug Martin. I just think that Rainey has got more versatility as far as his style of running, breaking runs. But he did have that big fumble at the end of the game that cost the Buccaneers. But Where it all happened right there is when Deshaun Golston never intercepted the football at the 31-yard line of Carolina. Instead, the Buccaneers got it at their 30. That's a 40-yard difference in that offense with that little time. That was going to be a really hard move to get to because they had to get to the 30 just to kick a field goal to tie it.
I think the jury's still out on Doug Martin. He's been injured all pretty much half of last season. He had a great rookie season. I don't think he closed the book on him just yet. Bobby Rainey has a fumbling problem. I mean, he fumbled week 1. He had a couple fumbles last year. I don't think we've seen enough of Bobby Rainey. I want to see him play an entire season in the NFL. See how he matches up. See his durability. We don't know how well Doug Martin's gonna, stick together literally coming up into the season. Right. So it's going to be interesting, but at the same time, I don't think you rule out Doug Martin as your, established number 1 back here with the Bucs.
Right, Curtis. Thank you for the call. And Bobby Rainey. I said Greg Rainey. He used to be my golf pro.
Oh, really?
You could tell.
He didn't
play with the crap.
He didn't help your swing.
No, not anymore. All right, 813-367-0171. That's 813-367-0171. The Plank presented by Jeep continues right after this. The topic coming up. Ray Rice and the new stuff coming out tonight.